In this video, we're going to work with the range slicer to increase or decrease the chart and showing different specific data. So for example, you want to only view certain data points here. As you can see, we can move around. We can go here, we can go all to single one, or and you can see here the value is 1. And if you go here, we go to the Sunday, which has a value of 21. We could zoom in here, showing this 21. And this is quite fun because this is a part of zooming basically of Chartjs, although it is not the zoom plugin. It's just built in with a slider, nice and interactive and dynamic for your users. In this video, we'll answer one of the viewers' questions, which is how to create a Chartjs dynamic range input. So this question came from one of my other videos about the Chartjs range input. And then here, a special thank you to Rokeable Hake. And this is what Rokeable said or asked. Hi, thank you for your video. I'm following your tutorials regularly. They are great. Thank you very much for that. Can you please make a video on dynamic range chart? Meaning in this video, the maximum is changing, but the minimum is always 0. I want a chart with minimum also varying along with maximum. Thanks in advance. Alright, so let's start to work on this specific question. So what we need to do here is basically we are going to create the range. For that, first of all, we're going to go to Chartjs, the tree.com, getting started, and in here you can just copy this chunk of code here. And once you copy this, we're going to put it in here, and then what I will do is I will cut this out and put the title here. And if I save this right now, you can see we have now here the chart. So what we need to do here for demonstration purposes, I'm going to duplicate this part here. But to do this, what we're going to do here is we're going to create a constant. And this constant will be the labels. And then we will say labels equals this array. I'm going to cut this out. Say labels as equals this value. Alright. So here, we're going to put in 2 more weeks basically, so we're going to just paste this in twice, and then in here we have the data here, so we need to duplicate that as well. So we say this constant, and then we say here, let's say call this data points, and the reason I'm calling this data points is because we already have a constant with data, so we couldn't use data again. So I'm going to cut out this, paste this in here, and then we say here data points. So what I want to do here is basically I would like to duplicate this 2 more times as well. But what I also want to do here is I want to number them from 1 until 21, so it's easy to spot later on. So we're going to just number them. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, this is 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Alright, so if I have this now, there you are. So it's very easy to spot later on if we have the right item working when we have the slider. So what we're going to do now is basically create 2 specific sliders here. These sliders will have a specific name as well, so we say input. And this will be type equal a range. It's a range slider, just to be clear. And here we will say ID equals, this could be the minimum, or maybe even a better one would be a start. That's probably the better term, because minimum will be used as well here. They also have a max value. The max would be 21 here basically. And the minimum would be here by default on 1. So I'm going to copy this. And then we put another one here, and this will be end. And the end, we will just leave the minimum blank for now, and the max will be 21 as well, which will be identical here. Alright. And what we want to do, if I save this right now, refresh, we have this, but what I want to do is I want to set this now on this position here. So this value should be on 1. So it's showing everything from the very beginning, so all of these numbers, and the other one will show all the values but starting at the end. So if we would move this, it starts to change step by step. So we say here value, well this will be value 1, and then we have below here, this will be value equals 21. Save this, refresh. Now we have them in the right position, as you can see here. If I refresh this, you can see it always goes to the right position. Alright. So what we're going to do now is we're going down here, because what we have to do here is, of course, we need to make sure that this will be triggered by the function. So we will select here on input, and on input equals, here we could say here, basically we're going to create two functions. One that will respond on this input, the starting input, and the other will be on the ending range slider. Alright, so we say here, we can say update minimum, and we get the value of this, and this would be whatever we select here. Very important. Same goes for down here, except that here we don't say update min, but we say update max. Alright, so if I save this now, we're not done yet. Of course, you can refresh, but of course nothing happens because we need to create our functions. So we're going to create two functions here. So the first function will be the update min, and here we're going to put in the range value. So this is just the range, so we can just give it a range, which is basically the item when we select it here is this. So this would be the range, whatever we select here, and we can test this as well. So we can say here range would be the following. Console.log. If I do range, but then we need to indicate here dot value to grab only the specific value, and what I will do here is exactly the same, but then for the max version. If I save this now, refresh here, open up our console log, and then if I move this one, as you can see now it's 20. That is correct because the maximum was 21. We'll go here, we go all back to 0, alright, and the other one here, and the reason why here 0 is because we didn't specify here a minimum. So what we have to do here, you can see here, if we go, and as you can see, I have to make some space here, alright. So if I go here to 1, that is the starting point, and if we go all to the end here is 21, alright. So this works nicely, and you can see we grab the values out of it as we slide. Alright, so to do this now, what we need to do here is basically we need to create or select every single time whatever happens on this ID here, the starting ID and the ending ID. So we're going to create a constant equals start, and that equals get element of ID start. That makes sense because we can pinpoint them consistently. So constant start equals document.get element by ID, and here will be the name of the ID name, which is start. So the same will be for the end. So we say here end, and this will be equals end. Alright, so once we have this, what we need to do now, this needs to be in here. And here you get the most tricky part, because you need to figure out what will happen. Basically, what is happening here is they are interconnected, and this is really the mind twister here. So what do you need to do to make sure that one is dependent on the other, and the other is dependent on the other one, basically. So they're both dependent on each other. Alright, so what we're going to do here, first we're going to work on the minimum update, or update min. So what we're going to do here is the following. We're going to create here a constant, and this will say min value. And this constant here is basically helping us to slice. Yeah, so what basically we're going to do here is we're going to slice the array every single time we select a new value. And the reason why we're using slicing of arrays is because we're creating a new array based on this specific item here. So this is very important to understand. Alright, so we say here min value equals labels, and then dot slice, and this slice will be on a range, and this range is of course this item here, or basically this. So we say range dot value, because we have here our starting point. So we're going to pinpoint the starting point because we want to slice every single time. If we move to the further ahead, we want to slice these numbers here at the beginning, not at the end. At the end will be done with this one specific slider, but this slider will slice everything at the very beginning. So we say here the starting is 1, or basically 0 should be. So we say here this minus 1, because in an array we start with array value 0. Very important to remember. And then what we want to do is here, we want to get the end value. So this is interconnected with this item here. So the end value, so we say here end value dot value, which will be eventually here. We will create it later on because this is connected with that one. So basically this end value, let me just put this like that, and then I'll say here 21. Let's do this first because so it's easier to follow along. And later on we're going to replace this because this here will be dynamic based on this. Alright, so once we have this, what we need to do as well is, because we need to not only slice the labels, we need to slice as well the data points here. So that's what we're going to do second. Constant, and then we say here the data point min value equals basically the same here except only for one thing. The difference here will be not the labels but the data points, and the data points, as I indicated, is this constant here. Alright, so we're going to have the range value exactly the same here, it's the same amount because these two are interconnected as well because we have here only 21 items here. You can also soft code it by putting here an array.length, but that's alright for now. We'll just leave that. And this will eventually be the same except, oh well, this will be here as well based on what we will select later on. So I'll just leave this here because then afterwards we're going to do this one, but first let's make this complete. So once we have this, what we need to do is the following. We're going to say here, because now once we have this, we need to reassign this min value, this basically the slice array, in here to this part here. So that's what we're going to do right now. So we say here my chart, then we say dot config, and the reason I'm going here is basically my chart. It's this starting point in my chart, and then config dot. Then here in the config we have the dot data, and the data will bring us to the labels here. This one here specifically. Alright? So dot data dot labels equal, and this will be equal basically this one here, the min value. So we're going to paste this in here, and the same we will do for the data points. And here what we need to do here is not data.labels, no, we say here data sets index 0 dot data. Let me explain why we're doing this here. So as we can see here, we are the config dot data. And then here, instead of the labels, because you can see this is the labels, we need to go to data sets, which is an array, or array as well, which is starts index 0. This is the reason why we have these brackets here, indicating that this is an array. And then in this, for data set 0, we have data, which equals data points. But then, of course, we want to make sure this is the new equal here. All right. Once we did this, we say my chart dot update, and there we are. Let's save that. Refresh. All right. So now, if we move, as you can see here, we're changing it. While the color is not 100% being changed, we'll figure out that later on. But you can see the values are correct, because if I go back here, this is 0 or 1. And then if I move on here, you can see here, this is still 21. As you can see, the color changes here because we have a fixed segment here of these colors. But this value here is number 4. And if I go all to the end, we get 21, which is correct because the last value here is 21. All right. So once we have this, we need to do the same for the update max function. It's basically this one here. And here we do the same, but now the exact opposite of what we want, what we did here. So we can say here constant, and this can be max value, and max value equals, we can say labels slice, and now we slice it, but not what we did here. We slice it at the very end. Now what we want to do is we want to slice it at the very, this was sliced at the very beginning. Now I want to slice it at the very end here. So this is very important. Sorry, at this one here. This is the slice at the beginning, slice at the end. So we say here the following. We're going to say here the max value slice, and then we say we start at 0. Why? We want the starting point at 0, and then this later on will be dependent with the minimum here. We'll make this dynamic based on what we selected here above. So that's why this one here is hard coded on 0. So this 0, and then comma the range dot value, what we select here, basically this one here. All right. Once we have this, you can see here we have this one, and this here will be replaced with this max value here. I guess it should not be end value, or should it be? Probably max value would be the proper name, but that's alright. We'll leave it for now. And what we're going to do here is the following. Say here constant. And then we say here the following. And here again is exactly the same, and then we say max dot value equals, we get the data points, this, and then we put in here 0, and this will be the range dot value, and then we say here my chart dot config, and then we say dot data dot labels equals the max value, which makes sense, and here we have exactly the same, but then with the data point max value here. All right, once we did that, my chart dot update. If I save this now, let's double check if everything works. So when we move this, all right, we get Sunday here, which is the last one at the very end. And then we move here. There we are. All right, so because it is here not set yet, this is the reason why we need to work with the final item. So let's work on that as well. So I said here we should have here the end value, and then we have here basically the max value. So let me double check here. All right, so it was not really the end value here is based on this one here. Sorry, so this should be that. So we say here dot value, getting the basically the range at the very end. That's this one here, remember. It's this item here. So this will be there, and that will work. So then once we have this, we can change this one here as well. We have that one, change this. All right. So let's save this and check if we have everything correct. So if I go in here, you can see we still have one item that we need to fix. That is this item here, but our values are working nicely. So let me double check what we need to do here. All right. So basically here, what we're going to do here is to select or grab the value that we put in here, which would be the basically this max value here is the min value in the range at the end value here. So it will be the max value in this range slider will be the min value of this one. All right. So I hope you are following along. This is a quite tricky one here. So we say here, or we can say here, basically document dot get element by ID, and basically we could even get this one here. I guess that should just be this. We say just start, and then we say here dot max equals range dot value. All right. So if I save this now, let's see if this works as expected. We should have now only one value. Oh, not yet. All right, so I'll double check regarding to this. Let's see what I'm missing here. All right, so after that, I just realized that what we did was correct, except that we have only one thing missing, which should be the other one here, basically this item here. So we have this one. This would be basically in the start, which is the start range. In here, we will put basically the max value. All right, so that would mean that here we need to grab here the minimum value of the end. So, or this should be set on there. So let me show you what I'm talking about, because this is probably very confusing item, because this is a kind of a tricky item here. All right. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to grab this here. And if I move this, you will see nothing happens here yet. Move this, nothing happens, but you see the upper one is working nicely. All right. So if I move this again and put this here, now you can see here the minimum here doesn't change, while the upper one, the max value, pay attention to this here, is changing. So that's the one we are missing, and that explains why. So we say here end dot minimum equals, or min range dot value. When we save this, we should now expect a working model. All right, and min dot range value. What happened here? Sorry, we have to remove these parentheses because we're getting an error. Refresh again. All right, you can see here. And now as we change, pay attention here. You can see this is working nicely on the end ID. So that would mean that if you are here, there you are. So now it's nicely connected. You can see here, if I go here, we have no more zero value. All right. So this is nice, but what I want to do, final one, is matching the colors. Because maybe you say, well, what about these colors here? Because you can see the labels are all working nicely, because this is Sunday. If I move here, one, it's Saturday. And if I move again, and there you are, then I do see maybe we have a slight item that we need to solve. Oh, is it? No. All right. Is it correct? Let me try this. If I move here, oh, we have still something here to solve. So I'm going to explore this as well. Let's see. All right, so after some checking, so we had this issue here. So I just figured it out. So it was quite more tricky than I personally expected. However, eventually it will be. So we did here, I guess we could do exactly the opposite. So we can say here start, because this is our element ID. And then we say here start.value -1, which is a starting point. And we do the same here with this 0 here. Save that, refresh, and now let's double check. There we are. All right, so let's go back here. Monday, and we should have Monday as well. Nice, we go to the very end. Sunday, all right. So you can see here the values are matching, but the colors is not. So if you would like to keep the colors, so let's do that one as well. It's almost similar to what we did here, and this might be quite tricky, so I'm going to remove all this stuff here. So I hope you were able to follow along. Even for me, it was a real mind twister. So what we're going to do is here, basically this here, we're going to grab these. And all what we're going to do here is, well, we can just copy this. And then we say a constant, say background. This is background color equals, put in this, all right. And here, background color equals background color. And the same with the border color as well. We can do the same thing here. I'm going to cut out this. So here this equals border color. All right. This will be a semicolon, and then afterwards we're going to fine tune that. We have this here, and then we say here constant border color. And exactly, I will copy the exact same name here with the capitalized C that equals this. All right. What I'm going to do, just to make it nicer, is put them all beside each other. So it's at least slightly more condensed. All right. We have this, and later on we have to duplicate this a few more times, 2 more times to be exact. And then afterwards we're going to connect them exactly same like the others. All right. Going to copy this, comma, paste, and then comma, paste. There we are. That's the first one. Now the second one here. Comma, paste, comma, paste. All right. So the reason why we're doing this is that we need to make sure that every color has assigned a color, or else if you only have 7 colors, it will loop itself consistently. And what we want to do now is just this color is associated or assigned to that specific value. So it's a direct match. All right. So we have this here. Now what we need to do is basically here exactly the same for the colors as well. So we're going to do here for the background color. I'm going to put it first on the max here. And we say here max, basically here BG for background color. Now I'll do another one, max. This will be border, I would say border C, BC for border color. All right. We have this data points, and this is here. Now the data point is not the case because we have here background color, border color. We say this here. Let's see. The data points, yes, that's the border color. Then we grab here the, the border color. We put it in here. There we are. All right, so we have this now. Now reassign this here. And we paste these two in here, and then we say here data set, and then this data set had basically the background color, and that one is the border color. We will assign this one here, then we assign this one there. All right, so we have this. I'm going to copy this part here, put it in there, and then I will also copy the other one here, which is this one, just to put these two together. Then here, instead of max will be min. We have all of these start value. All right, so watch out here. This needs to be removed. I'm going to remove these and just copy this here. Exactly same methodology. Empty this, and there you are. All right, so we have this, but then we say here min, and this will not be bg max, but no, bg min. And here border color min. All right, so now we have this here. I'll just put in this one here below to be consistent with the other lines of codes here. All right, there we are. So if I save this now, let's double check here. Remove. As you can see, the colors are moving nicely. And now if we move this as well, you can see here all these colors are consistent. So Tuesday is blue. We go back here. Monday is red. All right, and then we go to Sunday. We should maintain the black color of 21. And there you are. So this is basically how we do it. And to be honest, this was a real tricky one, even for me. I was slightly confused as well. So make sure you pay attention and be consistent here. Try to understand these here together with why these are connected to each other. So if you really enjoyed this video, I have another one that I would highly recommend you to explore as well, because what I did here is really connected with a candlestick chart, where you have a stock chart where you want to watch it and you want to expand or decrease the size of the chart by zooming in on certain items, because we're very close to zooming basically here. So I would highly recommend you check out this candlestick chart in Chartjs 3, which we use a Chartjs financial plugin as well. Interesting to explore and go even deeper with this specific skill.